On AI Applied today, we're talking about agents. Now, listen, the news is coming fast and furious about AI agents. You might have heard a recent podcast that we did around Anthropic's computer use that's using through Claude, where actually you can kind of go in there and test it out, where it takes control of your computer and starts not just telling you, oh, if you want to book a trip to San Francisco, here's how you do it, but it actually takes over your computer in a very simple way mechanically, but still doing it and doing all that stuff, and you're watching it happen. Now, I argue that this is the seedlings of something that's really going to transform everything. But now all of a sudden it's coming fast and furious, right? Google released just for a few minutes, I think, on its Chrome extension Jarvis, which is something similar. OpenAI now has Operator around this. People are going crazy. Salesforce is talking about agents. I know there's been talk over at Microsoft about agents. Jaeden has been doing a deep dive on. He loves this topic. He just suggested, what if we do a 4-hour topic on this right now? We will not. We'll let you go about your day. Jaeden, what's getting you psyched about all this?
Okay, so we've talked a lot about a lot of different things, and we can get back to that. But I wanted to bring up the one that is just breaking news as of today, and that is that OpenAI may be releasing an AI agent tool in January. So this is actually really big news. Bloomberg just broke this, and they're reporting that apparently OpenAI is essentially working on launching a software. They've done this before, right? They already have an OpenAI desktop app. I believe it's on Microsoft and Mac. So I'm not sure if it will be built into that or this will be a standalone thing. My guess is they'll try to bake it into the ChatGPT app itself. But in any case, the codename for it is Operator, and it can essentially take direct actions on your computer. So they're going to be planning the initial launch of this as kind of a research preview. We see them do this frequently, so it'll be through its developer API, which personally, as someone that is developing with these tools, very excited about that. But yeah, this is going to be fascinating. We've seen other people do this. Anthropic has a tool that essentially can book flights and do different things based off of a prompt. It seems like this is OpenAI's response to that. And I think the key thing here is if it is truly a software on your computer and it can take control of your whole computer, we're going to see massive jumps in what people are actually able to accomplish. And if this can be, just based off of what's happening in the industry, if this can be a tool that just sits on the sidelines and is triggered whenever you need a certain event done, or you kind of give it a task and it goes and works on it, this could be really, really big for productivity.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's, Jaeden, you and I talk about this a lot because it's AI applied, and how would people actually use this? So again, one of the things we talk about a lot is how you shift behavior around these tools, especially on ChatGPT. Adoption, everybody's tried ChatGPT, but real adoption, using it 20, 30 times a day, which I do. I know Jaeden does. I know my colleague Robert Haslam uses it probably 50 times a day. That's adoption of something like a chatbot, which is unbelievably helpful in terms of elevating productivity. I was trying to think, what is the user interface that's going to really drive adoption? So everybody's using it in the same way they would be using the internet, say. And I was thinking maybe it's voice, because you can kind of interact with it like a voice, and maybe some other things with the vision function, all that sort of stuff. But as we're sitting here, Jaeden, I'm starting to think that maybe it's agents, right? Because everybody knows, hey, can you go book me a flight? I get asked these questions, especially last year. I got asked a lot. Well, can it go do this? Can it go do this? I'm like, well, it can't do that. What it'll do is help you think. But I think the real breakthrough is probably going to come when people say, oh, now I can book my travel. Oh, now I can do these spreadsheets. Because if you think about it, I love how you were saying this will probably be built into ChatGPT. I think OpenAI is trying to make ChatGPT a one-stop shop, but people are not using a fraction of the capabilities. People aren't using vision. They're not using voice. They're not using code interpreter, where you drag in a spreadsheet and you have it be your code, like you have it do all that analysis of a spreadsheet. But if you're in here, Jaeden, right, and you say, hey, actually, what I really need is this. This is very similar to what plugins were supposed to be, right? I just need to do this, and it goes off and starts doing it. I'm now wondering if we don't jump over this huge milestone to people totally underestimating what it can do, to very quickly people overestimating what it can do. Because I think that early on, these things are probably going to be a disaster early on, right? Than trying to, because they're going to make a lot of mistakes. But you see, can you kind of track with me on this, Jaeden, this journey for a second, where people go from, I don't understand what it can do, and we're saying it can do a ton, to oh, it's an agent. It can do everything I tell it to do. Okay, go do this. And all of a sudden, people are going to get caught out because it maybe can try to do those things, but unless you're really tracking along, it's going to make a lot of mistakes early, right?
Yes. Okay. I agree with that, but I also have a prediction that's more exciting than being cautious. So we're going to throw caution to the wind with the
Oh,
prediction.
love that. Oh,
All over this is going. It just occurred to me when we first had ChatGPT come out. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a ton of people that were selling like lists of prompts. They're like, here's like
yes.
1,000
Oh,
prompts, do everything you want for $20.
yours.
Right. And I already know your opinion on those. So obviously no one's buying those today, so you don't really need them. But here's what's interesting to me. When you discovered a prompt back then, because really you're kind of discovering the capabilities of the model, it was incredible. It was like, oh my gosh, it can do this thing for me now. I predict that we're going to have a similar renaissance with these AI agents where you're going to essentially discover, you're right, that we're not going to be able to do everything, and there'll be some limitations that like really are kind of gotcha moments. And in retrospect, we'll be like, oh, I was so dumb for asking it to, go and make me $1 million online today the fastest way possible. But I think it's going to be able to do some really impressive things. And my prediction is with just like the way that tons of businesses, people are like, oh, you're just a wrapper to Chat GPT or whatever, which, if it's a useful piece of software, it's a useful piece of software. So I don't throw any shade that their way. But just the same way that if you had a really good prompt, you could build a really cool tool that, it creates podcasts better than anyone else because we discovered a really great prompt for it. If you discover a really great prompt for these AI agents that tell it how to do a specific task really well, I predict there's going to be people that are going to buy dozens of computers, right? So imagine you're at your desk right now. You're going to set up desks all around you. You're going to have laptops on all of them, and each of them will be agents running like major tasks for you or your company. And you're just gonna be able to scale up everything. You're like, once you figure out a process that works really good, instead of being like, oh, let's hire a person to do this, you're just gonna get a new agent. And I predict that departments, you'll probably do like virtual machines and stuff like that if you're smart about it. But I bet you there's gonna be people that are just buying computers, putting them all around themselves, and they're all just like working. And so you're kind of like in your little co-working space, and maybe you have one computer that's like assigned to be like the manager of all the other computers, and you're like, all right, like, how are we doing on the marketing department this week? Okay, cool. Yeah, can you tell them to like adjust the it's slightly to improve X, Y, and Z process? Okay, great. Thanks, agent one. All right, agent two, how are we doing over in finance?
Yep.
This is the future I'm predicting.
This is Jaden's dream future. I already see the material image that I'm creating of this with Jaden with 14 arms, you operating all these laptops all around him. I agree with you, but I'm also thinking, first of all, when does this come, right? Because agents are starting to sneak out a little bit, but it's very hard to get any kind of visibility into how quickly these things will improve. I really don't know. But I'm wondering, Jane, and tell me if this resonates with you then. Let's call your, agent one, laptop one or whatever is doing something around sales or something like that. I think that the analogy of, treating this like a person, like a colleague, is getting extended. So what we talked about early on is you don't have to learn how to prompt. What you really need to do is train your brain to talk to this like a human. That will give you the best results. And that's really all it is. So if you have good managerial skills, if you're good with working with people, that's how you work with somebody, right? So just to kind of play that out for a second, if you want to give somebody a task and then you want to add the context, why is this important? Remember, they're new to your team. Go away and try it. And then they come back and like, okay. And then you iterate with them. That wasn't really that good. Why don't you try it more like this? That's exactly how you should work with ChatGPT to get the best results. Now with agents, I'm wondering if it's one of these things where just like you have a new colleague and you have to oversee them and mind them when they're writing up the new sales thing or something like that. But then there comes a time in that lifespan of that person's employment that you just send them off by yourself, right? You trust them. You can put them in their office and you don't have to micromanage them anymore. I wonder if that's really how it's going to be with agents, is that it's not like it can do uh, one thing, everything great, but it really is these very specific agents that does this. And once you really train it and then be able to trust it, then you can take your eyes off that ball. So I think what you're saying and what I'm hearing a little bit is, and didn't Jensen Huang say our company will have 100 million agents or something like that? So maybe it's just very specific things within the more general purpose thing orchestrating. Is that sort of like how is that the Jaden future that we're all striving toward here?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the way I see it is, currently in my companies, I always hire virtual assistants to help me with tasks that are like repetitive and that I've kind of cracked a workflow down. And I'm like, okay, I need this thing done like 100 times. I think I'm just going to get an agent to do that in the future. So an example would be like, hey, I want to invite like great guests onto my podcast. You know, go find a list of the top 100 technologists that are really innovative. However you want to go find that list. Go find their LinkedIn's. Go use this plugin to find their email. Go send them an email. Make sure to include this calendar link. Here's a copy of the message you can send. Customize it a little bit based off of their experience and based off of the last kind of media show that they were on or whatever and what they said there, and invite them onto my show. Okay, that whole process, like I could have a virtual assistant run through that and invite 100 people onto my show, or I could just get an agent to do it. But it's not like this fundamentally complex task. Like it 100% can do that. And so essentially, I think what'll happen is, and I don't really know, but I'm assuming I'll create prompts that I test and they work. So I get it to invite one person on my show before I get it to invite 100. I come up with a test or a prompt that works. And every time, okay, well, it just got better. But every time I want this like whole process that I would normally hire a person to do done, I'll get an agent to do it. An even better thing is maybe I have a giant list of these agent prompts in a spreadsheet and they're all labeled like invite people to my show. This is the process. And I have one agent that I'm like, okay, go to my spreadsheet and find the one called invite people to my show and go do that one like 10 times. You know what I mean? So like you could still have one agent doing all of these things. You just tell it and it's like short keys. Okay, whatever. That's probably getting into the weeds too much. This is going to be exciting though. I'm serious. This is going to be amazing. You're going to get full processes completely done for you and automate yourself in ways that haven't been done yet. So I'm so excited. But there's something I really did want to bring up on all of this.
Yeah.
That is that the information recently broke an article. They said OpenAI shifts strategy as rate of GPT AI improvement slows. The big argument here is that the foundational models are not getting better as fast as they would like. The jump to GPT-5, for example, is not going to be as big as the jump from GPT-3 to GPT-4. And so they're saying they're focusing more on software. And to be honest, they made a nice roadmap saying the next step that they're working on is agents. But really what a lot of people are saying is they're going to agents because it's like this kind of software integration layer that can do a lot of really incredible, cool things. But they're doing it because the foundational models aren't there. Okay, so maybe this is true, maybe it's not. But in the light of all of this breaking, there was a really interesting tweet put out by Sam Altman a couple days ago, which is the last thing he said. And he just tweeted, there is no wall. So allegedly, according to Sam Altman, we have not reached the wall this could be anything. And he obviously has no legal liability to say that this means anything. But in light of that article breaking and everyone talking about it, he says there's no wall. And I think his assumption there is that we haven't actually hit a rate of improvement that we can't overcome. Of course, he's incentivized to say that. He needs to talk up his own book. He needs investors to be happy. I'm inclined to think that if he says that, there might be some truth behind it, and we might still be getting these foundational models to improve at some exponential rates in the future. I don't know. It's probably
No, I agree. Listen, I mean, we can say, do we trust Sam Altman? Does he have the societal good in mind? All that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure, to be totally honest, but because I can't read his mind. What I do trust him on is that when he said something's coming, those things have tended to arrive. And the only thing that tends to hold them back is compute. And so until he's, this is not the boy who cried wolf here. Like, this is somebody who's literally over and over again saying, this is coming, this is coming, and they do. And again, the thing that tends to hold them back is compute. And that totally makes sense too. So whether or not you trust Sam Altman to do the right thing for society, I agree. If he says there's no wall, I don't know. This is a guy that I trust in terms of when he says what's coming and what's not. So I don't know. I think this is all just super awesome. Remember that this is not coming tomorrow, folks. This is going to really take a lot of time until we can get to a place where we can really trust these systems. So again, this right now it's more for messing around, all that kind of stuff. So don't. But if you are planning a strategy for your company or even your own employment going forward, and you're planning 1, 2, 3 years out, these are things you have to take into consideration.
100%. And as you take these into consideration and you look for ways to kind of upskill yourself or your organization, the number one way I recommend doing this is with Conor's AI mindset framework. He has an incredible training, an incredible course all on increasing your AI mindset, and not just for yourself, but I think this is a really powerful thing to take, learn, and implement in your organization and with your coworkers around you. So if you're interested in Conor's AI Mindset course, make sure to go and check that out. There's a link in the description. It's an incredible course. I'm blown away that Conor has it so cheap. I don't know why he doesn't have this thing set to $900. But in any ways, he's basically giving this thing away for free. So go check that out. Link in the description. This will be a major game changer for you if you haven't taken it already. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast, and we will catch you next time.